after you made the weight, how do you refuel the body?
Well,
just keep it real brief.
Yeah.
Real brief.
The most important thing that you have to remember refueling after a weight cut is if
All right, so check this out, Troy. So tell us, man, like a little bit about yourself. So how you get started?
So again, I'm a registered dietitian. For me, it started when I was back in the military. I always wanted to try to get better rank so I could make a little bit more money. One of the ways to do that is by performance. So I started looking into the nutrition side of what I do, just to see if I can get a little bit more out of the scores and stuff on the PT test. Yeah. And I started getting better, and I started making my rank, and my friends started asking me, what are you doing? What are you doing differently? So I started kind of helping them out with some of it. It just started as fun for me. Wow. Something that was interesting and something I enjoyed doing. I was able to get out of the military, got my degree, and was able to put this into something in a place where I can help other people, bringing nutrition to them, and try to push people to get better.
That is funny because remember we were just talking right before we started, and we were talking about how we knew a guy named George Lockhart, and George was in the military as well. And kind of the same story. Yeah, now he does dietitians for a ton of fighters, a ton of athletes.
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us the importance of nutrition and performance when it comes to, especially what me and you do as martial arts, when we're competing.
Well, I mean, it's the foundation, it's the fuel, it's the gas in the tank. It's the same thing. If you have a high performance vehicle and you put crappy gas in the tank, you're going to have some knocks and things. It's not going to perform well. So if you want to be a premier athlete and you want to have that high performance vehicle, and our bodies are our vehicles, you got to put good stuff in the tank. You got to be able to hit the right things to give the body what it needs to push past the times when you're really, pushing through on the training sessions or whatever you're trying to get into. And having that fuel and having the body what it needs for the recovery and the rebuilding and everything else, that's what really it's all about, so that you can go ahead and keep performing at your top level all the time.
Nice. So I'm going to get to the nitty gritty, and there's a lot of guys out there that's still actively fighting, and they have no idea on how to properly eat to lose weight, to make their weight class.
Right.
You want to shed some light on that?
Well, I mean, the one thing in my experience that I find with fighters, everybody knows what they need to eat. The biggest issues is when are they eating it, what can they bring in, how much should they be having here and there. And that's where, you bring someone like me in, someone that actually, has the background on this stuff, that plays in the areas where other people are struggling. So as usually you see people coming in, let someone in that knows how to set that up, do the timing for you, make it nice and easy and lay it out for you, a nice, easy plan. I think that cuts a lot of the guesswork out of it and makes it. And, look, as a fighter, your job is to fight. That's what it's really about. All the other stuff, that stuff's great, but the more stuff that you can allow other people to be able to try to handle that for you or make that life easier for you, then it makes that fight night just that much more of the focus what you need to worry about.
I had to learn the hard way, because back when I was in high school and college, it's all about eating less to make the weight. You know what I'm saying? And then when I became a professional, it was like, no, you need to have food. You know what I'm saying? You need to have nutrition. You need to eat. You know what I'm saying? And I ended up actually eating more during my weight cuts as I got older.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and that's one thing too, and this goes out for anybody, young kids, anybody getting involved with this. You're going to get advice specifically when it comes to nutrition, and no offense to wrestlers, you guys got the worst nutrition advice around. I don't know, just as far as weight cuts goes, but you're going to get all kinds of different advice. Most of it's probably going to work, but how much of a detriment is going to be to you? How much is it going to take away, specifically when you're doing weight cuts and things like that, from performance? That's the most important thing. Getting the weight off, that's not a problem. Most people can get the weight off. There's so many different ways about it. You can find a million different ways out there to do it. But what is the result afterwards, and how's the body feeling once all that weight cut is done? Yeah. How are you showing up on fight night? That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter if you make the weight. Yeah, great, you make the weight, but if your performance sucks, it doesn't matter.
So what's some things you might recommend? Give us some free tips, if you will. After you made the weight, how do you refuel the body? Well, just keep it real brief.
The most important thing that you have to remember refueling after a weight cut is, if you are limiting how much calories you take in, your body starts doing certain things. One of the things it stops doing is actually producing enzymes that break your food down. So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make is they finish their weight cut and then they go to freaking some buffet and just start hammering food. Your body, there you go. Your body doesn't break
until
that
I
stuff
learned.
down. Until you learn, yes,
I
yeah.
learned the better way.
It actually drains more energy out of you to sit there and have to try to break all that stuff down. So small meals, usually liquids in the beginning as you're starting to get some stuff in, a nice mixture of carbohydrates and protein. Keep your fats pretty low. Fats will slow down digestion. So when you're refueling the body, sugar is actually what the body's going to be running off of.
A lot of guys are big on Pedialyte.
Pedialyte's decent. You know, look, if you want to get some rehydration, I personally do a rehydration mix that I give to all my athletes. That's kind of a little specific thing. I go a little bit more natural. Pedialyte's perfectly fine, but coconut water can be mixed in there. I'm a big fan. You know, you can look at putting some glutamine in there as well too, which will help to rehydrate. Obviously, sugar is a big important part of it. That's going to refuel your muscle glycogen inside your cells as well as your liver, and some protein. Typically, most of my athletes get their first 2 meals as liquid. And then after that, we start introducing solids again. And then again, it's going to be more kind of lower, roughish things, but you're trying. The most important thing is trying to establish the carbohydrate load back into the body, as well as maintaining the hydration. That's the other aspect that a lot of times I see a lot of my fighters start losing focus on, is making sure they're adequately hydrating throughout the rest of that time leading up to get the water back in the system that they depleted to get the weight down. So that's the most important thing.
What I was told when I got for my last few fights was probiotic foods like pineapples.
Yeah.
Like
so
yogurts.
So probiotics, but you know what I'm thinking? Digestive enzymes more. Because the pineapple is going to be papaya and things like that. So that is another part. And you give it all. But digestive enzymes is something that will incorporate as well too, which will increase the enzymes inside the stomach, which will allow for better breakdown, allow for better absorption, get your body back into a more nutritional state. So yes, absolutely. And those foods will have naturally digestive enzymes in there too.
And one thing they told me during my cuts were like, Kendrick, your goal is to stay hungry. You know what I'm saying? They wanted to keep feeding me, and I ain't gonna lie, like putting the weight on is just more important than taking it off. And trying to like Troy was saying, is performance based, like trying to perform, trying to hydrate as much as possible, trying to get as much liquid as you can. Also not upsetting the stomach, so
not overdoing it.
Not overdoing it. Small portion. Want to stay hungry, guys. So I say this because we see a lot of times, and now you're starting to see it documented a lot, how bad people weight cuts are. I've seen a lot of. If any of you guys know who I am, you seen me follow me on YouTube or on social media. You guys know I used to train with a lot of high profile people, and I've seen a lot of devastating weight cuts, and it can get bad, and if you mess up, you're gonna pay the price. Either you pay the price during the cut, or you're gonna pay the price right after the cut, where your body going to shock, or you're gonna pay the price in the ring, fight night, right there on the spot. Happens quite a bit. So that's some really good information. So Troy, got a question, man. So for people like me who basically I haven't fought, I haven't really gotten to any competition in a long time. Most of my life I've always been coached. Most of my life I've been told what to eat, when to eat. And during the time of competition, I am like a machine. So when somebody sign on the dotted line and they say, Kendrick, you gotta fight. Man, I put the pizza down, I put the whatever bad stuff's down, I get right into mode and boom. And I dropped this weight. And during the time I was training and coaching and training people as a trainer, people used to say, Kendrick, how do you cut this weight? How do you do that? And I used to tell them, I said, oh, well, I do that for competition. I do weight cutting. I don't necessarily diet. You know what I'm saying? I don't necessarily use proper nutrition. And what I started to realize, when people used to say, Kendrick gains weight, I started to realize I didn't know the proper way to sustain that. And I find that a lot of athletes that I work with now as a trainer, like NFL, you name it, NBA, even some fighters, that they gain a lot of weight fast. So tell me some, do you know any tips for people like myself? How can I become better at making it a lifestyle.
Right. You know, and it's funny, we were joking about before, you know, said sign under contract to get another fight if that's what you gotta do.
Yeah, he said that. I was like, you're right. I said the same thing. I said, I gotta sign.
So there's a couple
to make me say, hey, I'm gonna go fight.
Yeah, there's a couple of different scenarios you could look at. The first one is, you know, maybe you do need something like that just to kind of get you back in the game and get you moving, you know, kind of like that carrot and stick scenario. So even if it's something, you know, maybe not going into another fight, but maybe a challenge, you know, maybe something like I don't know, warrior dash or one of those tough mutters, just something that's fun that you can kind of look towards and get yourself going and motivated to get back into the groove again as something like that. As one way, but then also, you know, if you want to make this a long-lasting lifestyle, what you got to understand is you used to perform at this level. That means that you used to be able to eat at this level. You no longer perform at this level. Now you're performing at this level. That means you got to eat now at this level. So it's time to start bringing some of that stuff in, and the mindset that you've had for much of your adult life as a professional, you got to change it. So it's a matter of putting in some steps and making some changes at that point. How do we make some changes? Well, you start small. You know, one of the biggest things, or one of the biggest examples I always try to impact on any of my clients is it's all about consistency. Whatever you can do, consistency is where you're going to get your biggest results. You don't have to do big sweeping changes. You don't have to change your whole life around just to get your results. It's small stuff that you can do over and over and over again. That's where all the results are at. So it's the same thing like you jump on an airplane. Let's say you get on an airplane in Los Angeles and we plot our course from point A to point B. We're flying Los Angeles to New York. All I do is I change your course 1 degree north, just one small change, and I go ahead and fly that path. You're not landing in New York. You're going to be somewhere in Maine or Canada or wherever you finish. You're nowhere close to that.
That's a good point.
1 degree over that long distance is a huge difference in your destination. So it's the same thing. What can you do differently? Well, maybe I can shorten a couple of my portions up here and there. Maybe I can move my body a little bit more here and there. I don't have to go out and start training 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a day. But maybe if I train an hour every single day, do a little more. Maybe I'll drink a little bit more water. Maybe I'll see about getting a little bit more sleep at night. You know, just small little things that we do to kind of take care of ourselves that our body starts rewarding. Because again, you know, as we were talking about with some other participants, stress is a big factor as far as your body holding on to weight and stuff. And if you're constantly going and going and going and going, it's good. But if you're stressing out, your body's going to pay for it. And usually we'll start feeding that as well too, and then you revert back to your autopilot, which is I eat at this level because I'm an athlete.
Not anymore.
So it's kind of like you know, you got to kind of have a little bit of a talk with yourself and reestablish some new boundaries or some new guidelines for you.
So he's so honest, brutally honest, really honest. And so another big thing that we probably didn't talk about was like sleep. I think for me, I was, you know, and I'm working on it, is I'm used to operating off of, you know, not a lot of sleep. And does that, you know, raises the stress levels?
Absolutely.
Like cortisol.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you have a couple different hormones going on inside the body. You know, I'm sure most people have heard of melatonin. Most people supplement with this. Well, we produce it. We produce it naturally. It's the opposite of cortisol. Cortisol is more of a wake-up hormone. Melatonin is more your sleeping hormone. They have to live opposite of each other. So if cortisol is being pushed up, melatonin is usually being pushed down, and vice versa. So if you're go, stress, and you're kind of expressing more cortisol, that means you're going to blunt your production of melatonin, which will not allow you to get to sleep cycles a little bit better and get to the circadian rhythm and what you're trying to do. And that's a huge aspect of it. You know, I always talk circadian rhythm for health, and I talk this with fighters all the time because this is kind of like the small little things that you can differentiate yourself from other people. And, you know, those little bits of ground that you can make up might be the big difference on fight night. So we live in something called a circadian rhythm. Same thing like a time zone. You jump on a plane, you go to Los Angeles, your body's still in Florida time. We're in tune with the earth. The sun goes up, the sun goes down. The sun goes up, hormones get expressed. The sun goes down, hormones get expressed. So if you're fighting against that, that's stressful on the body. Our natural times for most humans to be sleeping is usually between 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Most of us don't do that anymore. So that is going to usually throw you off of balance a little bit. So yeah, all these little small things that we can do. And again, you don't have to be a saint at anything and be perfect, but the more that you can kind of dial it in, the more you start seeing the performance go through.
Something that I, again, from going to trying to be a professional athlete and performing like a professional athlete, what we used to do if we knew we had a fight that was going to be later on. You know what I'm saying? If we knew it was going to be a main event, a lot of main event people do this. You tend to train at night.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So you used to getting up in the morning. I remember when I was training with Padman, Iran, and we used to like, man, I'll work all day. I go train with the team, and then I go do mint work with him at like 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
We just go do mint work for like hours. You know what I'm saying? To like midnight. But in our minds we're like, well, we're gonna be fighting late anyway.
Right.
And so again transferring over into this everyday life. You know, being a dad and all these other things I got going on in life with the wife and everything. So it's like, she's like, hey, why don't you never go? I'm just used to being up. You know what I'm saying? Around this time,
right? You know what I'm saying?
Either I was watching the fight or I was getting ready to go do some training.
Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's the lifestyle, and it's not, you know, it's not always there. Now, I do agree with you. You know, if you have a fight coming up and you are, you know, most fights are usually more later in the evenings. Look, you should train how you fight. So if your fight's going to be at night, then I would structure personally, and most of the time we do structure the fight camp more in the evening type of a training, so you're working it up. But I don't know if I'd train all year round like that. You know, I think that I would use that at certain times during those fight camps so that, you know, you kind of get the body used to it. Kind of like if you're fighting over in another country. You're not living in that country all the time, but you get there a little early to kind of use the time zone and things like that too. So I think that would give you more benefit. But then when you're out of the camps, I think the recovery process is a big part of it, and getting that good sleep. You know, you might not be able to hit those good hours because you're off on there, but I also think not skirting it too much. Like most of the time, even when they're nighttime trainings, I always say, let's try to get it in, you know, let's try to wrap it up a little early so we can at least, because even let's say you finish up 8 o'clock at night, what time are you going to bed? You're not done. You're
body
wired. Yeah, you're wired and all that, especially if it's a spar session or something like that. You're going. You got the adrenaline still going. So there's no sleep.
Not gonna go right to sleep, right? Yeah. So that's something I got to work on, man. Troy, thank you, man.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it, man.
Absolutely.
That was good information, guys. If you want to get in touch with Troy, how can they get in touch with you?
You can find me on my website, talktotroyrdn.com. You can also email me, talktotroyrdn@gmail. Any other place, Facebook, Instagram, all those spots. You can find me by my name, Troy Tretola.
Okay, cool. Guys, thank you, man. If you want to hear more content like this, make sure you subscribe, like, and hit that notification bell, okay? We're going to wrap it up, man. Thanks.
My pleasure.
All right. Hey,
Let's
guys.
do it again.
We'll see you later, man. Hopefully we get Troy back on here talking some more about nutrition. Y'all have a great one, all right? Later.